episode 3 of our buying and selling journey. Okay, so taking you a tour through the house. You've seen kind of what needs to be done about it. And we've been looking at houses at the same time. We just looked at a house yesterday, as a matter of fact. And it just goes to show, and I think we've seen, I don't know, like 50 houses. I know I said 100, but I think I was exaggerating a little bit. We've seen a lot of houses. And I realized just how hard it is, or we realized just how hard it is really to find the one, right? Especially if your house is still pretty much working for you. So there's, you've lived in it for a while, you know what works, you know what doesn't, you know what it is that you're looking for. And then you're taking into consideration, okay, so when you look at houses, or like when I take people to look at houses and when I look at houses myself, like location is obviously number one, right? So you have to dial in your location because that's really going to determine what you can get for your price point. Then not just on top of location, but how big of a house you're looking for, bedrooms, bathrooms, all of those sorts of things. There's interesting things that I kind of forgot about when taking people through houses since the last time I did this a couple years ago. We bought in July of 2022, but that's when we closed on the house. And I mean, we probably put in the offer in like March or something. Because we had to get our last house ready. Like the last time we did this, our house wasn't even ready. We just looked around. We were just like, oh, we're just looking. We're just gonna like look around and see what's out there. And we found this house, and luckily we could do a contingent offer at that point. They accepted the contingent offer knowing that we could list it really quickly since I was the agent on it. So this time around, we're kind of in the same boat. We're looking just in case we find something. And in the meantime, we're getting our house all ready. Lots of things to take into consideration. Getting the bids for the landscaping and painting, and then packing up the house and all the other things that are going into it. Getting the house itself ready since we didn't finish a few things. But when we're looking at houses now, we have a travel trailer, we have a boat, we both have pretty significantly sized vehicles, and we've been really spoiled here in like ease of parking. We didn't really think about it. So, we looked at this one house, and the house itself was great, but parking was terrible. You could fit 2 vehicles, but there was nowhere to put the boat. There was nowhere to put the RV. So now we're like, oh man, do we sell the travel trailer? Do we build that into our budget that we're going to have to find a place to store it? What do we do there? So an additional little hang up. And then the house was super cool. The house itself was rad, but there was 0 yard, and we have a lot of yard now. I want less yard, but some yard. We need it for the dogs because we have 2 little Frenchies and they definitely don't get walked enough. We're super, super busy, poor guys. And, but we have a giant yard that they just go play in. They just roll around in and have access to, unconditionally. Except for when we have vendors come over who are giving us bids and stuff. They're such little nuisances. I have to lock them outside. But we entertain quite a bit too. So not only do we need some outdoor entertainment space, but the interior of the house really has to garner an easy way to entertain because we'd like to have a lot of people over. So the house that we had gone to that was so cool and like as we go was like on this really steep road. And trying to get in and out of it for parking would be terrible, especially if we had anything that we were hauling, So that was one thing to take into consideration on that house. Then this house that we saw last night, we were like, we really want our primary bedroom to have an ensuite, and then for our daughter to have her own bathroom that maybe she doesn't have to share with anybody. Because she's gotten spoiled here and not having to share her bathroom with anybody. And we like the idea of when you have people over, there's like the common bathroom that is just always neat and tidy and clean, and we don't have to worry about telling her to put her makeup away and all of that stuff when people are coming over. So last night we realized we need to be only looking at 2.5 bath sort of places, a minimum 2.5 bath. And then we need access for the dogs, and the parking situation in Lake Oswego in a lot of ways leaves a lot to be desired for us in terms of being able to easily fit both of our vehicles. And our daughter actually turns 14 on Saturday. And so she's going to be 2 years away from having her license, and then potentially there being a third car that needs to have a spot to have a place to park. Not necessarily. I mean, come on, guys. Can't just spoil those kids like that so much. I never got to park in the driveway when I was a kid. I've never even parked in a garage, honestly. I'm 46 now, and I've never parked in a garage. My first car ever was parked in the garage, but I never drove it. So I don't think that really counts. It just stayed there after my dad bought it until he sold it again. So never parked in a driveway, never parked in a garage. As a kid, it wasn't until, I think I probably bought my first house. After I bought my first house, that's a whole other story. But it was the first time I'd ever parked in a driveway. And I was almost 30, I think, at that point. So we can't be spoiling the kids like that. Anyway, back to the story about buying and selling. So, we're still, and every day we check in with each other. Are we still doing this? Is this still the right thing to do? There's all of that. I mean, the world's pretty much on fire at this point. So is this the right thing for us? Does it make sense for us to, be spending this much money, buying a much more expensive house, because we are spoiled and we have these things that we're like, these are needs. And this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like, you really have to delineate between what is a need and what is a want. Well, we are now adults and we have been parking in the driveway together for a long time, and we still want to be able to do that. I also have a thing about groceries and being able to easily get my groceries into the kitchen without much hassle. The house that we went to last night is like, you either had to go in through the basement and then go up the stairs to get the groceries into the internal stairs to get the groceries into the kitchen, or you had to go up this huge staircase out front in order to get them upstairs into the kitchen. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Ooh, that place, it was so crazy too. Just FYI, there were single pane windows, like old school 50s single pane windows that kind of covered each other like this. And it had a little clip that kept it closed. Like, they were in great condition. The people who owned this house really took great care of their possessions. Like, the place was pristine. We love mid-century modern, so that was part of the reason why we looked at it. But a lot of times, if those mid-centuries have not been recently renovated, either you're going to get a house that does not have an ensuite, it's a shared hall bath, or you have the kind that just have the tiny little shower stall. And we don't want that either. So and that's part of the process of looking at all of these houses, is like, what kind of house, as much as it's cute and it's got a lot of character, is it really going to meet the mark for all of those little itsy bitsy nuances that you're looking for? And right now we haven't found a mid-century that really does that. And as much as we initially thought we hated the ticky-tacky houses built in like the 90s and above have those great en-suites. So we're expanding our search a little bit, thinking outside of the box a little bit, and now thinking about maybe not getting quite so close to Lake Oswego. So here we are again, redefining our location, but West Lynn, instead of Lake Oswego, is going to get us more house for the money, in a lot of ways. But we have been revisiting in our brains, and we've seen it twice. Okay, that's when you know a house speaks to you, is when you see it more than once. If you can. Sometimes the houses go so fast you can only see it once. But this house in particular needs a ton of work. It is gigantic. But last night we were kind of mulling it over. If we're going to be in it for 5 years, would we be able to touch every room? Would we be able to make that thing really shine when we go to sell it, that it would be so spectacular that we would make, potentially make a bunch of money off of it in order to buy our quote unquote forever home after this? It's such a misnomer. People say that it's going to be their forever home, but most of the time it's not. There's very few people who stay in anything for that kind of length of time. There are people out there, but it's a very small percentage of people. So the struggle is real. We've seen a ton of houses. We're still not quite ready to put our house on the market. We had the thing that happens, and this is why, as much as it happens to me, it would happen to you as well. But I can remove this thing from you, this being a problem for you. because it would be a problem for me and not a problem for you as being your realtor, is that vendors come, contractors come, and they look, and then they don't provide a bid. It happens all the time. My sister also was just complaining about it. If you can imagine, my sister's neighbor accidentally drove through her front fence. So she's having to find contractors, and she sourced this contractor on her own, didn't get a recommendation from me. And he came and looked on Monday, and it's Friday now, and she hasn't gotten a bid from them. We also had a general contractor come in to give us a bid on some of the minute sort of like finishes that we need done that are time consuming and not a ton of fun. It takes a lot of kind of expertise in order to get these little finishing things done. Like the middle parts get done and you click them together and everything's fine, but it's like, oh no, I messed up on that. Now somebody needs to go in and kind of clean it up or finish the edges, where it means there's lots of measurements and lots of cuts and things that just like, oh my goodness, once you've, been on your hands and knees for days and days and days installing flooring and all of the stuff, it's the last thing you want to do at the end is those finishing touches. And so we've been living like that for a while. Good thing we have pretty rugs that can cover up this stuff, but trying to get those sorts of things finished. So it is a struggle to project manage all of these things. And because we are doing it ourselves, it makes it all that much more difficult. Obviously my husband has a full-time job, and we have, a daughter who's in sports and getting her to and from school and her friend's house and houses and all that stuff. Trying to be able to work in between how to get the house done. Hopefully, with you guys as clients, I can just get the bids and have the people come out and do the work and be there when the work is being done and let them in to get the bids looked at or put together and all of those things. So I can remove that from your plate. You guys don't have to worry about it. Come up with a list. I like to come up with a list of all the touch points and punch list items that need to be completed, and then go over, what you want to pay for and what I can help you with and what that all looks like. And then go from there and find all the vendors to come out and give the bids, perform the due diligence, and kind of get that done as quickly as possible in order to get you listed as quickly as possible. And then I also have, and I'll probably do some shorts or videos, or if you're watching any other content of mine on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, a 30-day to list guide that gives you on day one, here's what you're going to do to put it into bite sizes. And that is outside of what I would do and help you with, paint and touch-ups and landscaping and vendors and plumbing and all the things that you need to know about ahead of time. So if you're interested in that, please don't hesitate to book a call to get that sort of information. And so we're in it. We're in the thick of it, and there's lots of stuff to do. There's lots of rearranging I have to do in the house on top of, looking at houses at the same time. And everybody decides that they're going to do things differently. Some people are like, I'm not even going to look at a house until after my house is under contract and we are past the inspection period. And that's totally fine. That's completely up to you. That's kind of the best case scenario, is to be able to wait and do that. But know that you might need a backup plan. I think if you've seen any of my previous videos, we have a backup plan, which is because we have to sell first, we only bought a couple years ago. There isn't a ton of equity. We took out a HELOC in order to do a lot of improvements. So we don't have a lot of equity in the house in order to be able to buy first and sell later. We have to sell first. And because we know that, we have the backup plan of knowing that we may have to put ourselves into a furnished rental for a little while. That just means that you're packing up your clothes and bringing it with you. Everything is like an Airbnb, but a long-term Airbnb that has cups and plates and forks and spoons and furniture and stuff to cook with and all of that sort of stuff. It's not your house. It's not super comfortable, but then you kind of have a little more impetus to get into the next thing, and you can do it in 30-day chunks as opposed to signing a 6-month lease and then having to break that, those sorts of things. For those of you who are fortunate enough to be able to buy first, and that's amazing. And that is, I guess, really the best case scenario, that you can get into your next house, vacate your old house, get it fixed up, get it staged, and then put it on the market to garner the most amount of money out of it. Because I'm staging it myself with our own furniture, because I think we have cute enough stuff to do that, and that will appeal to the masses. But really the best way to do it is to have a professional stager come out and you live with, so it's almost like living in a furnished rental anyway, because most of the time you're living with somebody else's furniture and not your own. Maybe you have your own pots and pans and cutlery and things like that. But the furniture itself, the beds that you're on, the other like throw pillows and all of that stuff in there, and art and everything is from the staging company. And so you're living like that for a while until you sell your house and buy the next one and get into that. So the struggles, man, they're serious. The good thing is, my husband and I think a lot alike, and we like a lot of the same things, and we have, the goal in mind together, and we work really well as a team. And we found that out while we were remodeling this house, that it's fortunate for us that we can do this and not be like at each other's throats or bickering or anything like that. But one of my main things as a realtor and helping other people do the same thing is to remove as many things from your plate as possible, so that you guys can just do the making some decisions but not having to be around for everything, and then go look at houses and get you into your best new house. And it can take a hot minute. We particularly know that in the location that we're looking in Lake Oswego means that there's really limited inventory, and so and because we are pretty specific, that it can take a while. And so that's why we're not in a super big hurry to get our house completely list ready. But if we needed to, we could really pull the trigger on this and get some help in here and get things dialed in pretty quickly to get it on the market and move forward with anything. But we also kind of want to be able to spend part of the summer in our house, because we have this beautiful south-facing backyard. And last night, oh man, we got home from looking at houses and going to softball and whatever, and I stopped and picked up some Chinese food. And as I got out of my car and I'm listening to the frogs doing their frog things and the crickets, and it's pitch black out here, and just like, oh man, I'm really gonna miss this. That at night you open up your windows and you just hear the sound of nature. We're gonna be in a place where you're gonna hear neighbors. So some sacrifices have to be made in order to meet your goals, and we're willing to do that. But I just wanted to share this episode of kind of update of what's going on with us and where we're at in the process. And so if you have any comments or questions about the process and how I might be able to help, you can always comment on these videos, as well as book a call with me. And there should be a link somewhere for you to do that. You can go to the website, or you can go to the link tree and book a call with my Calendly. As always, much love to you all, and best of luck on your real estate journey if you're not taking one with me. Talk to you soon.